Hey guys, how's it going? I'm going to tell you a simple process that you can do to help save you up to $150 a year. And that's a simple thing of changing your own oil. Now why should you change your oil? Now being a mechanic of 7 years, I know in my shop a standard oil change, depending on your car, can run from $26 to almost $100. $100! Now, I know personally that the materials I'm going to talk about today, minus the tools of course, can run you upwards of about $25 depending. You know, you got a little buffer room versus your car. So, I mentioned tools, let's get on. First you're going to need a wrench set. Good old standard wrench. Many cars nowadays, if you go with a metric set, that should be able to cover you. Secondly, you're going to need what they call an oil filter wrench. Now they come in a variety of shapes and sizes. This is my own personal one from work, and this is the style that I like best, but whatever works for you. And these are simply to grab the oil filter and give it a twist off. You're going to need an oil drain pan to put that old oil. And also you're going to need a jack and jack stands to get the vehicle up. That is unless, of course, you can crawl into your monster truck or whatever you may have. So now that I've talked about some tools, let's go on to the supplies you're going to need. First you're going to need oil. Right here I got a good old quart of oil. Now most cars take about 5 quarts of oil, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. You should check with your car brochure to make sure. I have here 5W30 synthetic blend. Now depending on your car, you're going to look at your oil cap or your guidebook, and that should be able to tell you if you need a 530 or 520. But for a good rule of thumb, 530 will do you. You're also going to need an oil filter. Now when you go to get your oil, most places, Advanced Auto, AutoZone, Pep Boys, wherever you may go, should be able to tell you what oil filter you need based on the year, make, model, and motor size of your car. Here I have pictured the standard oil filter, which is just a screw-on type. And I also wanted to point out that most new cars have what they call a cartridge filter, which is basically same as this, but you just unscrew a plastic piece and insert it. So now that I've talked about the supplies you're going to need, let's move on to the actual process. First, you're going to have to lift up the car. Now, a lot of people say, where do you jack up? And I have an easy answer to that. If you look on the side of your car, you should see what they call a frame rail or a pinch rail. And it's a thin piece of metal that usually has 2 notches and an arrow. That arrow is where you need to be. So you're going to want to jack up the car and securely place it on jack stands. Now that you got the car up in the air, you're going to want to crawl under there and find your oil drain plug and your filter. Now your oil drain plug is off what they call the oil pan. And if you're looking at it at a car, it's usually black or metal, very easy to find, usually has bolts around it, and then the drain plug's in the center. The oil filter should be right off the drain, the oil pan, excuse me, right near the drain plug. Some cars, they like to hide it, but if you got the new one in your hand, you should be able to find it pretty easily. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your trusty wrench, you're going to put it on the oil drain pan, and unscrew it. Simple as that. But I do want to warn you, the minute you unscrew that, oil will come out. So get your drain pan ready. And if your car is a little hot, it can be a little hot. So you're going to want to let the oil drain a little bit, and when it finally starts to drip, 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 you should be able to put back your oil drain plug and tighten it up with your wrench. You don't want to go too tight, just nice snug. So now, you got all the oil drained, you're going to take off your filter, and that's where your oil filter pliers come in. You're going to give it a good grip, and ready to tell you lefty-loosey, right? So the oil filter should just unscrew at that point by hand. There will be oil in that as well, so just watch yourself. And for a standard filter, they do have a little bit of a problem that you should be aware of. The rubber O-ring sometimes gets stuck on the engine housing. You're going to want to make sure that where it screws on is nice, clean, and free of that O-ring. So you put on your new filter, give it a little hand tight, that's all you're going to need. So, now you got your oil filter on, you got your oil drain, let the car down off the jacks, and you say, well John, where do I put the oil? Easy solution. Just pop your hood, you should have a little black cap, usually in the center, and this one, like I said, it's right below the Audi symbol, and it will say 520, or it will say engine oil. It's not that hard to miss, and you just unscrew it, set it off to the side, pour your oil in the hole. That easy. So you got that all filled up, you put your cap back on, you say, well, is it right? Easy step 2. Just start up your car for about a minute, and you're going to want to look for your your oil dipstick. And usually they're marked yellow, and they will say oil on them. So you just pull that out, wipe it clean, make sure it's between the two lines, and you're good to go. So, you drain the oil, you jacked up your car yourself. You're saving yourself money. Congratulations, you did your first oil change. Now, with the average person doing about 4 a year, with the cost of my supplies, about $100 compared to what I said before, almost $400. It's easy to see. So, we went over the tools we're going to need, wrenches, the supplies, and how to do the process. You're on your way. Any questions?
Where do we find the tools?
Inexpensive Place to Tools, you got one stop. If you're going to start for the first time, head to AutoZone. They'll have all the tools you need, or Vance, or Pep Boys, one of those chain stores. They should be able to sell you a cheap wrench set, that's all you're going to need. Oil filter wrench, that's all you're going to need, and your oil and filter. And you should be good to go.
And how about disposing the oil?
Disposing, usually each county has its own disposal, but a perk I did find is Walmart will dispose it for you.
Oh, okay.
So.
Cool. I might have to try this.
Yeah.
That's good.
But we got a lot of oil in our